The topic for now is adulteration in coconut oil. Now, I thought I should do a long video on this one to educate the consumer about the effects and perils of adulteration, to what extent it is happening in this industry. Many people don't care about the kind of oil they get, whether it is adulterated or not, as long as they get it at a lower price. And some people deeply care, but they have a lot of misconceptions around it. And many people in this industry itself, they think they know, but they hardly know anything. Now, there are about 200 different oil mills in this coastal Karnataka region. 95% of the oil millers don't know what adulteration is, how it can all be done. So, as when they find something that is different from what they already know, for example, if the color is different, instead of transparent white, it looks little yellow. If it behaves differently under cold temperature, suppose it takes a little longer to solidify, or there are some granules that occur at the bottom. Any different behavior they observe, or they suppose they hate a brand, they call this is adulterated and this is adulterated with white oil. So that's all they know. So I thought I should dig very deep into this topic, and this is my attempt. So to introduce the topic of adulteration in coconut oil, let us understand the definition of adulteration. So that is intentional mixing or alteration to reduce the cost while misleading the consumer. So this is the definition. So let's break it down. So intentional mixing. Mixing could be you add something into it or remove some of the main ingredients from the oil. Now you dilute it with a cheaper one to increase the profit by reducing the cost. So if coconut oil costs say 300 rupees a kg, you add something that is much lower in cost. Now they do all this by misleading in the name of pure coconut oil. They say this is pure, but then they do something differently at the back. Now the blending rules of FSSAI, they say that if you declare it is okay, that is you add 20% of coconut oil and say 80% of palm kernel oil, that is not adulteration. That is blending. And it is known to the consumer. It is well defined in the package. It can be easily be identified in the package. So that is not adulteration. So we know about the adulteration in milk. In milk, what happens? You add water. So water is a no cost substance, and milk has some value. So water has no nutritional value, whereas milk has it fat and other nutrients with it. So when it comes to coconut oil, why people consume coconut oil? It is for its nutritional value, its aroma, its taste. If you deprive people of it, when they pay for coconut oil, you are now there are many other ways in which manufacturers or traders make profit, but this is the most annoying way in which they do it. For example, tax evasion, the impact is much lower compared to adulteration. You're not playing with the health of the people. Now, here the impacts can be very devastating. Now, let's look at why adulteration happens in coconut oil. Why coconut oil is susceptible to a lot of adulteration. One, the cost of coconut oil is higher, much higher compared to other oils, and people value and they are willing to pay for this cost because of the value that coconut oil gives to them. Okay, we see a lot of adulteration in ghee because ghee is very dear to people. It costs about 800 to 1000 rupees a kilo. Coconut oil similarly in the range of around 300 rupees. Now, cheaper oils like palm oil or sunflower oil comes at less than 150 rupees. That's the great motivator for adulteration. Now, these are commodity and they are highly price sensitive. That is, any change in price drastically affects demand. If the price goes lower, the demand increases to a greater extent. This is also a motivator. So, if you have to increase the sale, you reduce the price. How to reduce the price? If the cost doesn't allow, you adulterate. Coconut oil is subject to a lot of price fluctuation. Now, in the last couple of years, we have seen coconut oil being as low as 150 rupees a kg to going up to 500 rupees a kg. And this happens due to impact in the weather patterns, the pest attack on coconut trees, the various demand factors. So when the price fluctuation happen, the individual household budget impacts. Now, when the budget impacts, they change their cooking oil choice. Another motivator is the availability of substitute. Now, there are many oil or liquids which are similar to coconut oil, which blends very well with coconut oil, and where the consumers cannot detect very easily unless they do a scientific chemical testing. And coconut oil as a cooking is a very unorganized market. There are many players. They don't do business very formally. There is tax evasion, there is non-declaration, there is a lot of adulteration, malpractices that is happening, and that is the choice available to consumer. There is no major player here who can supply to the entire market. So when there are so many players, there is a lot of competition amongst themselves. And the best way they know how to compete is by reducing the prices. And there is no limit to it how much they can reduce the price. Another reason is that there is FSSAI, which is supposed to detect adulteration, to stop adulteration from happening in the market and protect the interest of the consumer. But the implementation is pretty weak. It is not to the desired level to which it has to happen, and it is happening very freely in the market. So the onus is on you as consumer to choose a pure coconut oil for your consumption. The government body, though it is there for your protection, it is yet to do its duty fully. There are about 5 different ways in which adulteration can be done to coconut oil. Let's look at each one of them in detail. For summarization, let me list the top 5 ways in which coconut oil is adulterated. One is with light liquefied paraffin, which is a mineral oil. Second is with palm kernel oil, which is a close substitute to coconut oil, and it comes from the palm tree. Third is with coconut Testa oil, where instead of the entire coconut kernel, you use only the coconut skin to make oil, and that closely resembles coconut oil. Then you use cheaper ingredients, bad quality coconut or coconut oil cake. You do solvent extraction and then refine it to make coconut oil. And lastly, the hydrogenated ones. Now, those oil which are similar to coconut oil, you hydrogenate, you artificially change its chemical composition, that is amount of extent of saturation or hydrogen in the carbon chain, and bring it closer to coconut oil. So let us discuss each one of them in this detail. So to go with the first one, which is the light liquefied paraffin. So now we have seen 5 different ways in which preparation can be done on coconut oil. Now everybody knows that it is with white oil. So let's get into detail of what this white oil is all about. Now it is called white oil because it looks very transparent white. The technical name for this is light liquefied paraffin. How this is derived? This is derived from petroleum, crude oil, which it is a mineral on earth. So crude oil is fractionally distilled. That is, at different boiling points, we get different petrochemical, and one of them is paraffin. Now, paraffin is of two types. One is liquid paraffin, and another is a popular paraffin that we know that is used in candles, which is the solid paraffin. Now, that classification is done based on the length of carbon chain. Now, this is a simple hydrocarbon. That is, and it's a very saturated hydrocarbon. The formula is CnH2n plus 2. So carbon has a valency of 4 and hydrogen has a valency of 1, and they form a bond with each other, and We have a very stable structure. Or if the carbon length is between 15 and 50, then it is normally liquid at room temperature. Room temperature is about say 25 to 30 degrees Celsius. Now, why white oil or this light liquefied paraffin is blended with coconut oil? Because it blends so easily. Now, light liquefied paraffin after refining it, it is colorless, tasteless, odorless. So, and it blends very easily with coconut oil. Now, for example, water does not blend with coconut oil. It forms separate layers. Oil flows, water sinks. However, light liquefied paraffin blends thoroughly and it, it exhibits the characteristics of coconut oil, which is dominant. Now, the economics of it. Presently, LLP comes at around 100 to 120 rupees a liter, so which is very low compared to coconut oil, which is at around 250 to 300 rupees a liter. We have seen how what is light liquefied paraffin, what are its characteristics, okay, what makes it attractive for adulteration, how it is derived. Now let us look at how it can be detected. Now chemically we know there is LLP is just a hydrocarbon, very saturated hydrocarbon, whereas coconut oil is a triglyceride. So BIS specifies a lot of parameters, chemical parameters, and the range within which the coconut oil should fall into. Now, if we test on any of these parameters, the test will fail. For example, if we look at the refractive index, so the range is different. Mainly, what is immediately visible is the density. Oil is has a density of 0.91 kg per liter. LLP is lot lighter. It it is hardly zero point 0.8 kg per liter. So after some time, they will form different layers. That is, LLP will float and oil will sink. Coconut oil will sink. Saponification value. Now there is no concept of soap in LLP, so it has no saponification value. Iodine value, which is the degree of unsaturation in an oil. So it is fully saturated and it has no iodine value, zero iodine value. Aroma, it has no aroma. As I said, it's a colorless, tasteless, and an odorless liquid, whereas coconut oil has all of that. Lab detection is very easy, whereas to a naked eye, it is not easily detectable. Now, this is the worst part. That is, among all the adulterants, this is the most dangerous of adulteration. And thankfully, there are many people who adulterate coconut oil in this market, and nobody does it with LLP. Everybody does it with other methods. Whereas if we go to outside this region, that is coastal Karnataka, where coconut oil is used as a hair oil, then this is the major adulterant with which coconut oil is adulterated, because they use it for external application, that is for hair and skin. Now, if we take it into our body in the form of food, what happens? Now, it will not digest. It will stop the vitamin absorption, the essential vitamin absorption into the body. It leads to vomiting, diarrhea, because it does not allow digestion. Even after consuming, it has no nutrition value. It has only side effects. So it is not meant for consumption. Now we'll look into the next popular way to adulterate coconut oil, which is the palm kernel oil. Now, coconut tree is a palm, it belongs to the palm family. Similarly, we have oil palm, which also belongs to the palm family, and they have, compared to any other edible oil, they have the most similar characteristics. Now, from the palm fruit, two types of oil can be derived. One is from the pulp, another is from the kernel. So, if it is derived from the pulp, it is called palmoline oil, superetolene oil. And if it is derived from the kernel, then it is called palm kernel oil. Now, both of them are refined before being used. Now, what is the most, how is it most similar to coconut oil in terms of degree of saturation? Now, coconut oil is the most saturated vegetable oil. It is saturated to the degree of 92%. Palm kernel oil is saturated to the degree of 77%. Now, all other edible oil are saturated to a much lower extent. For example, if we take a sunflower oil, it's hardly less than 20%, and any other oil for that matter, to a much lesser degree saturated. Also, just like LLP, this also blends very well with coconut oil. Now, unlike LLP, the density is similar with almost in a coconut oil at kg per liter. Palm kernel oil has still a dark color. Now, this is why experts can detect the presence of palm kernel oil in coconut oil by looking at its color. They can only get a doubt, they cannot conclude with this. So, after refining, it does not have its own characteristic aroma, whereas coconut oil, it has its own pleasant flavor. Let's compare the palm kernel oil with coconut oil according to BIS parameter, because this gives a conclusive evidence of the presence of palm kernel oil in the oil. So, refractive index, palm kernel oil has a higher refractive index compared to coconut oil. So, that is immediately available. There is a very strict range as per BIS. Specific gravity is same, there is no difference. Saponification value of palm kernel oil is lower than coconut oil. So, it will be below 250. If it is above 250, then it's coconut oil. So, there is a clear distinction here. So, one of the best ways is the next method, that is the iodine value. Now, iodine value measures the degree of unsaturation in an oil. Now, coconut oil, I said, is 92% saturated, then its iodine value is 100% minus 92, which is 8%. Now, palm kernel oil has a iodine value which is in the range of 20. So, I said, if it has a saturation level of 77%, so 23 will be its iodine value. So, this is some of the best ways to detect, conclusively detect the presence of iodine value, presence of palm kernel. Now, the fatty acid composition differs between coconut oil and palm kernel oil. Now, some of the main fatty acids that are present in coconut oil, like lauric acid, mystearic acid, so they are available in different compositions, proportions. So, that if we do a lab test on the acid profile, fatty acid profile. Now, coconut oil is not just one single fatty acid, it's a combination of several medium chain fatty acids. Present situation, refined coconut oil and palm kernel oil are trading at the same levels. So, we don't find this adulteration right now in the market. When the price parity is different, that when palm kernel oil makes its way into the market. Now, we have seen the from the family, that is the palm tree. Now, within coconut tree, within coconut itself, we get coconut skin. Now, during the making of desiccated coconut powder, now desiccated coconut powder is the dried form of coconut, but the skin is removed because the skin is dark in color and it does not look very good with the powder. So, this skin is peeled off from the coconut when it is wet. This skin is dried, and then it also contains oil like coconut oil, like the coconut kernel, and this oil is mixed with the coconut oil. So, this is called coconut paring oil or coconut testa oil. The main source of this is the various desiccated coconut powder industries that are available along the coast or around Kittur or Tamil Nadu and Kerala. Now, the economics of this coconut testa. Coconut skin is available at half the cost of copra, a good quality copra. Now, suppose the present price of copra is around 160 rupees a kg. Coconut testa will be around available at around 80 rupees a kg. but the oil content is almost the same. If coconut kernel has 60% oil, even the Testa also has the same oil content. So we get oil from coconut Testa at half the cost of real coconut oil. Now, though it comes from the same source, that is the coconut, just between the skin and the main kernel, which is white, what is the difference? So let's look at this. And why it is still called adulteration? Because chemically and physically they are very different. The main difference is in the fatty acid composition. Now, the extent of saturation is lower in a coconut Testa oil compared to the normal coconut oil made from copra, which also contains the coconut meat. So, if we look at the iodine value, it is much higher. It's around 90, whereas that of a pure coconut oil is 8.5 to 9. Now, the way in which the coconut skin is removed and it is dried, it is subjected to a lot of a deterioration. And because of this deterioration, the free fatty acid, the FFA, is much higher. It is more than 2, whereas in a good quality coconut oil, it is less than 0.5. The color is darker because it is predominantly made from skin. The aroma is not very good. It is not as pleasant as that of a coconut oil. Now, this aroma and this extra color can be removed by refining, but still the fatty acid composition remains the same and it is still detectable. The way to detect this is simply by testing for iodine value. Now, this is a very sophisticated way of adulteration done by a premium a very large brand here in coastal Karnataka. Whenever the price tends to go up, they don't increase the prices in line with the raw material cost, which is the coconut or the copra cost. They blend this one at that particular time and then they flood the market with their own brand everywhere. And being very popular, it's easy to flood the market as well. Next method is by using a cheaper ingredient for making coconut oil. Now, the main ingredient for coconut oil is the good quality copra or coconut. Now, after extracting good quality coconut oil, we get a byproduct which is coconut oil cake. Now, this coconut oil cake, though it looks very dry, it still has 10 to 20% of oil in it, depending on how the oil is extracted. After extracting coconut oil from copra, the byproduct, which is the coconut oil chip, I said it still has 15 to 20% oil in it, which cannot be extracted further mechanically, but it can be extracted through the chemical process, which is the solvent extraction process. So, coconut oil blends with another chemical, that is the hexane, which is a petroleum derivative. Coconut oil doesn't blend with water. So, that's why it's called as a solvent. We put the solvent on this coconut oil cake and it absorbs the oil in it and it forms a mixture that is a solvent of hexane and coconut oil. Now, then hexane is separated through distillation. Now, hexane boils at 77 degrees and coconut oil will boil only at 170 plus degrees. So, with the distillation, we separate out the hexane and we get the coconut oil further. Now, this coconut oil cannot be used directly. This has to be refined. So, that is neutralized, bleached, and deodorized. So, this is called as solvent extracted refined coconut oil. The cost of copra cake is very low. It's hardly 35 rupees to 40 rupees a kg. And the byproduct of that, which is the beak oil cake, it also sells at a similar range. So, this coconut oil is almost free. This refined coconut oil can be blended with our edible coconut oil, that is the crude coconut oil, and it can be sold as coconut oil. There is another way to make refined coconut oil from a cheaper source. Now, all the coconut that we get from the tree is not in the best quality. There are some which have gone bad, either during the sourcing or during processing. So these bad quality copra are called cout in certain areas. Oil is extracted through them mechanically, and this has a very high FFA. Now, good quality oil has less than 0.5 FFA. This bad quality oil has FFA which is much greater. It can go up to 20 FFA also. This is refined. That is, the FFA is removed by adding a base, by treating it with a base, which is potassium hydroxide. So this process is called as neutralization. After neutralization, the bad odor is removed through deodorization, that is, heating the oil to a very high temperature and then removing the odor. Then it is being bleached. That is, the oil that is extracted from bad quality copra will have a dark color. This dark color has to be removed through bleaching, that is, passing through a bleaching earth to remove the dark color. So this is then filtered to get a refined coconut oil. So they get refined coconut oil from two sources. One is copra cake, another is the bad quality copra. So this is called as coconut refined coconut oil. Again, the cost of bad quality copra is much lower compared to a good quality copra. Though there is a lot of cost involved in refining, the resultant refined coconut oil still costs lower than a good quality coconut oil. So it makes it very attractive to blend. Now, there being coconut oil itself, it blends easily with the crude coconut oil that is edible that we all prefer to use, and it makes its way to the market. The refined coconut oil mixing with crude coconut oil can still be called as adulteration because we are not getting the flavor and taste aroma of that of a uh, natural coconut oil through this method, and it is of a cheaper price. Now, BAS considers the refined coconut oil as an edible oil itself. But the problem is when we project this refined coconut oil as the real coconut oil, natural coconut oil that we all like to use. There are many industrial applications of refined coconut oil where the properties of coconut oil is desired, but the aroma is not desired. For example, while making ice cream, so we want the flavor of vanilla, strawberry, or whatever ice cream that we are continuing. We don't want coconut to overpower these flavors. So this is when refined coconut oil we prefer. So refined coconut oil, unlike all the other adulterants that we have mentioned, they are coconut oil and they are edible. So how do we differentiate between a refined coconut oil and a natural coconut oil? So because it has been refined or neutralized, the FFA is almost zero, whereas the natural coconut oil has some FFA between 0.2 to 0.5. So if it is super low, then it means it is refined. Refining, even a refined coconut oil, even after bleaching, it still has its dark color. Now, suppose we extract coconut oil from a good copra through a cold press process, it will appear transparent white. Now, this refined coconut oil will not be this transparent. The iodine value, saponification value, all these parameters are the same, even the refractive index. So, how can we detect? Now, if there is a refined coconut oil with the normal coconut oil, the aroma will be there only for some time, that is 15 to 30 days. Thereafter, it becomes very neutral and bland. So, if we detect a package like this, then it's sure that it has been blended with some coconut oil. The normal practice in the industry is to use about 80% refined coconut oil with 20% of high roasted coconut oil. Why high roasting is required? Because the 20% of coconut oil should give the flavor to the remaining 80% to make it appear normal. When, like I said, when the prices go up, these big players, they replace refined coconut oil with refined coconut Testa oil, which comes at half of its cost. The last approach is through hydrogenation. Now, the difference between saturated fatty acid with an unsaturated fatty acid is the absence of a few hydrogen atoms and the formation of double bond between carbon atoms because of the absence of hydrogen atoms to saturate the valency, carbon's valency. Now, I said coconut oil is the most saturated of all edible oil. So, you take any other vegetable oil which comes at a very low cost, you artificially hydrogenate, you inject hydrogen into the molecular formula, into the molecule, and you increase the hydrogenation to the extent at which coconut oil is saturated, that is 92%. So, this is hydrogenated coconut oil. What happens? What is the nature of a hydrogenated coconut oil? So, hydrogenation, many times it will be cis, which is not very dangerous. Whereas, if it forms a trans alignment, then it can be very dangerous. It can clog the artery or cataracts. So, this is why vanaspati, which is a hydrogenated oil, dangerous. Now, hydrogenated coconut oil, it behaves differently to cold weather. Now, it will solidify in cold weather, but when the temperature comes back to normal, above 25 degrees, it will not fully liquefy. It will still remain a solid. So, this is how it can be detected. Let's again summarize the comparisons what we have done between coconut oil that is extracted from copra, good quality copra, versus other adulterants, how they are different. First, we have looked at LLP. LLP is not a edible oil. It can easily be detected and it is very harmful. Palm kernel oil, it is close to coconut oil, close substitute to coconut oil. It can be detected through iodine value test, and it's not very harmful, but we don't get the characteristics of a coconut oil that we so dearly desire. Coconut testa, it is from the coconut itself, but it exhibits different characteristics. It's not very stable. It's not as aromatic as a coconut oil. It can be detected through iodine value. Refined coconut oil, it is from the same coconut kernel, but through cheaper sources, and it is devoid of any aroma and taste, and it can be detected by the very low iodine value or very low FSSAI in it, and hydrogenated, which exhibits different characteristics when it is cooled down. The fatty acid profile is also different. It is similar to the base oil which is used. Now, we have seen how different adulteration is being done by manufacturers to sell their oil at a lower price. Now, what is the FSSAI provision around adulteration? Yes, they have done a good job in defining what is a pure coconut oil. They have listed on 8 different parameters. The various parameters are refractive index, specific gravity, acid value, or FFA, 3 fatty acid. Acid value is 2 times FFA, which determines the quality of oil. So, if it is from good quality copra, the FFA will be lower. Iodine value, which tells the degree of saturation in oil. The saponification value, how easily the soap is formed from it. Then there are other tests like test of mineral oil, peroxide value, flash point, the availability of hexane, there is a solvent used in solvent extraction in it. So we can just give a coconut oil sample that is doubtful to us to a NABL accredited laboratory that is specialized in oil testing, and ask them to perform tests on various parameters, and based on the detection, we can, based on the values derived through testing, we can detect the adulteration in it. I encourage the consumers to do this. For some of the tests, like iodine value, it may cost about 200 to 250 rupees. To do all the tests together, it will cost up to 5,000 rupees in a standard laboratory. But it is worth doing it for our own health. Now, the provision of FSSAI. Every manufacturer or a packer has to get FSSAI license, and he is subjected to the rules and guidelines of FSSAI, Food Safety Standards Authority of India. We have to periodically test our sample and make sure that it falls within the acceptable range for among different parameters. They don't only trust us, they also do their own surveillance. They take random samples from the market, they go to the retailer, purchase about 4 packets of doubtful coconut oil from the retailer with bill. That is, it gives the traceability, that is from the manufacturer to the distributor to the retailer and then to the FSSAI authority, food inspector. So this is the proof of having purchased from the retail outlet. They take 4 samples. One sample they give it to CFDRI laboratory, which is there in Mysore. They test along the various parameters and then they give their report. Based on this report, depending on how it falls within the parameters and then the valid ranges, then they classify the oil into 3 types, which is safe, substandard, and unsafe. So if it is fine, then it is safe. If if it is not within the parameter range, then it can be classified into 2 ways, that is safe, unsafe, and substandard. If it is unsafe, it can be dangerous to consume. It can cause serious health risk. For example, if it is blended with LLP, light liquefied paraffin, it can be dangerous. Whereas if it is blended with palm kernel oil or coconut testa oil or refined coconut oil, it is not dangerous, but it is not coconut oil, but it is substandard. So this is the classification. Based on this classification, they impose different penalties. The penalties can be up to 5 lakhs for unsafe coconut oil, and it can be 10 lakhs plus 6 months of imprisonment in case the coconut oil the mixture is classified as unsafe. If the food inspector has done this testing wrongly or has interpreted it wrongly and has given a wrong notice, so the manufacturers can fight back. They have another sample, they can give it to a common laboratory and they can fight in the court of law. So that's why the 4 samples have been collected. Now, this enforcement is not very strong. So that's why we see a lot of adulteration. There are some instances where in Kerala, where coconut oil is the main cooking oil, it is their identity, and where FSSAI sometimes has taken very strict measures in testing all the oil samples that are all the coconut oil brands, and have actually banned several brands from the market. I wish a similar exercise is carried out in coastal Karnataka also. The consumers have access to good, safe coconut oil for their consumption. So adulteration still prevails. It is very rampant. It is very difficult for genuine brands to compete with these adulteration players. It is also a bane for the consumers who don't get a good quality coconut oil that is adulteration free so easily. It is so hard for them to detect as well. So, though there are authorities, though the manufacturer is responsible, the authors, FSSAI responsible, the ultimate responsibility is with the consumer. So, they have to make a informed choice. They have to trust a certain few brands. That's the only way. Any they should buy in packaged form. Any loose oil is subjected to adulteration not only with the manufacturer but also with this supplier, that is a retailer or a wholesaler. So buy from the trusted source. Dig deeper into each category that you wish to consume. Though it's not very practically feasible, trust a few brands and buy from them. This concludes my presentation on adulteration. If you have any more concerns or queries regarding this one, feel free to drop the message and I will dig deeper into that one and present more information around this topic. Now, I have been in this industry for the last 15 years, but I didn't understand all these intricacies when I started the business. It took me 5 to 6 years to understand how others are able to sell much lower price compared to what I am trying to sell. I always used to think that my production process is not very efficient, or I am buying copra at a higher price, or somewhere I am missing somewhere. So after questioning and getting deeper into this topic, I have realized what the industry does to sell coconut oil at a lower price. Thank you.